how to speak in this regard. But then the tension is still very high, even in Benue State. Have there been resolutions? Have the Chief Justice conversation and being removed from office have they been able to address all of those conversations? Here we are this evening to talk about that conversation first, and thereafter we'll be talking about the Nigerian can and also what the level and impact of the can is, especially within the northern part of Nigeria. But joining me to talk about the first conversation here on the desk is Barrister Akintayo Balogun, who is a legal practitioner and is joining me to talk about the issues around the Benue State judicial crisis. But first, let me welcome Barrister Balogun to this desk.
Thank you very much. It's good to be in the studio once again.
All right, so Barrister Balogun, let's delve into this conversation right away. You've seen all of this narrative, even just this, just of recent. We've seen that of Lagos State, the battle, the legislative battles, and it has gone to court. We've seen that of Osun State. We've seen that of Rivers State, and other states are still even pending in the court. But what do you make of the general judicial systems in Nigeria as it stands right now before we go into Benue State?
Okay. Unfortunately, we are getting into a system where it appears that there's so much between the legislators and the judiciary. Like you just made reference to Lagos State now. Lagos State today, they were in court. Court made an order today that all members of the State House of Assembly should be joined as parties in the suit. You know, that one is there. We had several decisions, or we had a major decision from the Supreme Court today where, you know, the Supreme Court made an order saying that the members of the House, the ex-while speaker remains the speaker, you know, and the Supreme Court also ordered that the CBN should not fund Rivers State again, you know, and all that. And also that of Benue State too. We're also seeing judicial intervention. In fact, this one now, it's like a battle between the legislatures and the judiciary. So, you know, all this, we are seeing all this come up, and we are just hoping that we can have a kind of lasting solution to this crisis. It's not good when we're having continuous back and forth, you know, between the judiciary and the legislatures. Everybody should concentrate on his duty. But unfortunately, we are beginning to have here and there. Now, it is the judiciary that will now determine what Lagos State should be, or what the Lagos State House of Assembly should be. This case of Benue State will definitely end in court. That of Rivers State, to a large extent, has been concluded in court today. So we'll keep having all these occurrences as long as we have these three arms of government.
Well, Barrister Akintayo, at this point, doesn't this make the judiciary look like an avenue for caricature, where we have cases in the Supreme Court like that of Rivers State, but then there are also rules and also cases that the Supreme Court has ruled on, has not reviewed itself on those particular laws, but right now it was quick, very fast to take a decision on the Rivers State. Even that of looking at this and some judgments that we've had from the high courts and that of counter judgments and what have you, doesn't this all spell caricature of the judicial system in general?
Yeah, actually, you see, that is an issue. We must not close our eyes to it. It's an issue. It's a challenge. For example, now, the decision that was that came out today from the Supreme Court. I'm not criticizing the Supreme Court, but let me say it's more like an observation. Now, there was a decision of the Supreme Court not too long ago that said that the Electoral Act 2022 does not apply to local government elections. That is a decision of the Supreme Court. But again today, we have another decision of the Supreme Court that says that election, the local government election of Rivers State, should be cancelled because they did not comply with section -- of that same Electoral Act. So sometimes, I don't know if it is our human nature that brings in these discrepancies. We seem to have something today, something else is being said tomorrow. You know, it's quite unfortunate. The judiciary is being pushed or being pulled into what should not, or where they should not be. I remember I wrote an article about 3 years ago, and the title was our judges have been made political delegates, because delegates will come, they would vote, but then that election will still land in the court. It is the court that will now determine who becomes the candidate of the party. So at the point I now said is like the judges are actually the delegates, and no longer people that come, gather and do all the voting, because it is what the court says. Whoever the court says this is the representative. So I don't know. It's a situation that is a bit dicey, and I was really hoping that the judgment of the Supreme Court today would settle so many issues. But the truth is that, unfortunately, it's actually raising more dust than settling, because now we are beginning to have some form of contradictions from the decision of the Supreme Court, from earlier decisions of the Supreme Court. So I wouldn't want to say that it's making a caricature, but then there appears to be a level of inconsistency in what we receive from the judiciary. And
sadly, there's no way we can even appeal the judgment of the Supreme Court even as it stands.
Yes, unfortunately, once the Supreme Court has taken a position, that is the position.
Even if it's in error.
Even if it is in error. Even if it is in error. You remember some few years ago where the former governor of Imo State, went back to the Supreme Court for a review of their judgment. Supreme Court said, no, we have said it, and that is final. Zamfara State also went again, said, no, that is final. Bayelsa State went, said, no, that is final. So once anything has been said in the Supreme Court, that is final. There's nothing that can be done about it. Everybody will just have to fall in line.
Well, Barrister Akintayo, let's bring this conversation back to Benue State, which is more of our primary constituency even of this evening. Looking at the various Benue State Act and also that of the National Assembly that was able to be bold enough to ask a sitting chief judge to vacate his office, what's the reception so far of this particular decision by the Benue State House of Assembly, even within the NBA? And how has NBA been able to ensure that they have been able to stand up for the judicial arm of government, that they will not become it won't become another master-servant relationship where the legislator dictates what happens even in the judicial sphere?
Okay. Now, you see, the case of Benue State is a bit peculiar. And we need to understand that we should not just look at it at the face of it. There's a lot to it. Now, you would have to study the Constitution to understand who is right and who is not so right. You would also have to be conversant with judicial authorities to know who is right and who is not so right in that situation. Now, in the case of Benue State, it was the governor that wrote to the State House of Assembly, saying the CJ of the state should be removed. Now, they did their own sitting, whatever. I don't know if they did any serious investigation. Okay, in fact, there's no record of that.
The same governor that suspended the Attorney General of the state, the AG of the state, and is also calling for the suspension of the CJ, and he has come out to also deny that he didn't even say that. Well,
that of the Attorney General, it is his discretion. The Attorney General is his appointee, so he can do that. But you see, the judiciary, you see, it's an arm of government. We have 3 arms of government: the judiciary, the legislatures, and the executive. Now, these 3 bodies, there's this principle of separation of power that operates between the 3. And there's also this principle of checks and balance that also operates between the 3. The 3 should check each other. Now, if you look at the Constitution, look at it on the face of it. Section 291 sub 1A of the Constitution says that the State House of Assembly can remove the CJ. It actually says that in the Constitution. They can recommend his removal to the governor. That's actually what the Constitution says. If you look at it on the face of it.
Not on the other way around where the governor begins to recommend.
Yes. What it says there is that it is sub 1B says that CJ can also be removed. However, it is the NJC now that will do the recommendation. So if you look at that constitution on the face of it, it is the State House of Assembly can recommend his removal. The NJC too can also recommend his removal. Now that is what the constitution says. However, we had a live case of something like this in Kwara State. In Kwara State, there were issues, and then the governor, wrote to the State House of Assembly, also saying something about the removal of the CJ. The State House of Assembly passed their resolution, looked at it, and recommended his removal. And Governor of Kwara State, Governor Saraki, removed him because they said they relied on the provision of the Constitution. And the then CJ went to court. When he went to court, the Federal High Court, vacated the removal. They went to Court of Appeal. Court of Appeal said no, that removal was correct. But when they got to the Supreme Court narrowed it down and said no, a removal can only be done by the NJC. It is the NJC that can do a recommendation. It's the NJC that will set up an investigation panel and say, let us investigate the allegations that have been made against the CJ. Now, that remains the position of the law. Unfortunately, the State House of Assembly of Benue State, they simply looked at what the Constitution said. Just looked at it. Okay, Constitution says we can recommend, and they went ahead. No, you can't do that. You have to look, what is the position of the law? What does the judicial authority say? The authority now says that the NJC is the one that recommends. The NJC is the one that investigates. Incidentally, again, this same State House of Assembly wrote to the NJC saying this person, these are the allegations against him. But unfortunately, or should I say unfortunately, carelessly, the NJC did nothing about it. They left it, they didn't investigate. So, because when NJC responded, NJC said, yes, we received a report that this person should be investigated, but that investigation has not been carried out. So, somehow, if you look at it, you will still blame the NJC for not doing their part. This, according to the letter, what I read, that had been written since last year, and you did not do any investigation. So now the House decided to act, and they removed him, or they recommended his removal. So, but then, what is the position of the law? It is the NJC that will do the investigation and can also recommend his removal to the governor and say, Governor, okay, we have seen he's not fit and proper, he didn't do well, he has health challenges, he has this, he has that, we recommend that he be removed and be replaced. Now, that is the position of the law.
So far, we've had civil society organizations springing forth here and there, diplomatic, UN diplomatic, what have you, have come out to say that the Benue State House of Assembly erred in its decision to remove the Chief Justice, and as such, it should be reinstated back. But we've not been told clearly if the Chief Judge of Benue State has returned back to office, or whether he has vacated his seat, as it were, right now. But on this position, with the agitation from civil society organizations, public opinion hold water, even in Benue State. That's on one hand. On the second hand, when we don't have a chief judge in the country, in a state, what is the judicial provision of this? Would this amount to a state of a lacuna, or lead to a state of comatose, a state without a checks and balance, even in Benue State as it stands right now?
Okay, now that is actually an unfortunate situation, because it is not proper for a state to exist without a chief judge, whether in acting capacity or in full capacity. Now, as it stands, the state is saying that this person has been removed. In fact, they have recommended the swearing in of the next person now to act as the CJ. However, that responsibility of recommending someone rests on NJC and not on the State House of Assembly. State House of Assembly cannot go and say we hereby recommend that so person should be sworn in as the acting. No. That responsibility, that duty lies solely on the NJC. It is NJC that will look and say this is the next person that is qualified, and then recommend that person to the governor for that person to be sworn in as either the acting or the substantive CJ. So as it is now, unfortunately, we now have a situation where a level of politics will come to play. Because if the person who is next does not submit his or herself to be sworn in, then there's a lacuna. You are saying this person can no longer act. The person who is supposed to come in is also saying, no, I've not been recommended properly. So now, somehow, there is a lacuna. So the right thing for me, the right thing I would advise for the State House of Assembly to do is to follow the right path. Okay, yes, NJC should be involved. Involve NJC. Now that it has gotten to this point, NJC too should sit up. A petition had been written since last year and nothing had been done. But I believe that with this that has happened, they will now take the step and say, okay, now it is time for us to open an investigation. Let us see what needs to be done. If they do their investigation and they said, no, this man has not been found wanting in anything, then the governor cannot remove him. But if they say, oh, yes, he spent what he shouldn't have spent, because if you look at the allegations laid against him, issue of he spent more than his budget, foreign trips beyond what was budgeted. I think they said he spent 600 and something billion and all that. Fine. If the NJC investigates that and he's found wanting, good. The NJC will now recommend to the governor that this person should be removed. But it cannot be an act of the State House of Assembly. That is the position of the law now. It cannot be an act of the State House of Assembly. So the truth is that we are now having something like what I would call a political lacuna. If number 2 is saying, no, I cannot come in, I don't have the right recommendation, and you are refusing number 1 to sit, then somehow that place will remain vacant until the right thing is done.
Barrister King, before we let you go, to a very large extent, the body of benchers in Nigeria are silent about this matter. One would have thought that this is an issue that borders on their own jurisdiction, who are the benchers. But then the benchers are not speaking up. Rather, we're having more of the bar speaking in this regard. Is it that the Nigerian benchers care less about their constituency, about their own, or they will just want to just be negligent about all of this acts? Because injury to one, unfortunately, might just be an injury to all. Yes. If a chief judge of a state is being meted with this kind of treatment, who knows which chief judge will be the next? Is it that the Nigerian body of benchers care less about what goes on even in other states?
Okay, I wouldn't say that the body of benchers care less. Now, the body of benchers is the highest decision-making body in the legal system in Nigeria. And for me, I don't see, at the end of the day, they might still be involved. But you see, these issues are issues that can be handled both at the NJC level, at the NBA level. And it's even good that both organizations have spoken. They didn't keep quiet. The NJC spoke. The NBA also spoke. We also have 1 or 2 other organizations too that have spoken. And for me, these are steps in the right direction. It is when issues are going out of hand, going beyond control, fine. At that point, the body of benchers can come in.
So even when policemen are being summoned to mount the office of the chief justice of the state, it has not gone out of hand.
Well, for me, if you would ask me, I would say that the NJC, it is still something that can be handled by the NJC. It's not out of place. if the body of benchers make a statement, in fact, I would expect that within today, tomorrow, they should make a statement. They might not take any action other than to make a statement. But for me, for at the stage it is now, NJC having spoken, it should be loud and clear enough. Because the truth is, there is nothing this governor can do without the NJC. There is nothing State House of Assembly can do without the NJC. So, if NJC had spoken, if they have said something, that whatever they have said is loud and clear enough for which any government, any executive, any legislative arm of government should act upon. So for me, if body of benchers decide to speak, it's a good step, but NJC has that power to say this is what should be done. The truth is that whatever they want to do, if NJC is silent or refuses to be part of it, it's null and void. If the governor decides to summon the number 2 now and say, come, I want to swear you in, it's null and void because the NJC has no hand in it. So for me, NJC, whatever they say at this point is law. Not minding the silence or the whatever message that is passed by the body of benchers.
Well, Dr. Akin Tayo Balogun, I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the show this evening.
Thank you very much.
So what we'll do is that we'll keep following this and we'll keep bringing you back on this desk to talk about this issue, especially with the many judicial conflicting rulings by the Nigerian Judicial Council. We'll bring you back to talk about this issues around the Nigerian Judicial Council, the body of benchers, and the Nigerian Bar Association, because there are a lot of things that need clarification, even on this table.
Yes.
But then time is fast spent right now. We'll go for a very short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about more pressing issues. Please stay with us as the desk continues in a moment.
Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to global television.
Welcome back. The chairman of Northern Youth Wing of Khan, Musa Misal, has denied issuing any press statement in support of Reverend Yakubu Pam, the former Northern Khan chairman. He said they wrote the statement and asked me to sign, but I refused because I was live and direct when the state chairman and secretaries, together with Christian stakeholders, elected Reverend Joseph John Ayab as chairman, an election that has brought joy and relief to many Christians in the region. Well, joining me to talk about Khan, especially within the northern part of Nigeria, is the chairman of the 19 states in the north, Khan chairman, and is the person of Reverend Joseph John Ayab. You're welcome to the desk.
Thank you for having me, and viewers, good to meet you here.
All right, so Reverend, a lot of issues are begging for answers. But let's begin from the top of the conversation by first telling you congratulations on your election as the new chairman of Khan, even in the northern region.
Thank you very much. It is my pleasure, and thank you for all the support and good wishes I've been receiving since the election.
All right. So, Reverend, we observed that there was more of a space in terms of leadership vacuum in the northern Khan, especially of 2 years. You want to share this with us on how you were able to handle this, manage this, and where we are right now, and how you emerge as the chairman of Khan, even within the north?
Thank you very much. The Northern Christian, or the Northern Khan, is a coming together of all the leadership of Khan in the 19 northern states and Abuja to share common interests and to also discuss issues that affect all of us. It's just like you have in government, the Northern Governors Forum. Interestingly for our viewers, Northern Khan actually started in 1964 during the first regime when Ambassador Julie Tanko Yusuf and others were serving in the then government of the Northern region. So due to the challenges and the situation they find themselves, they encourage churches to come together because churches cannot confront government about issues that affect them individually. They need to come together. So it took even the nation 12 years before Khan came into existence. The fact of it is that the Khan today we are hearing about came into the existence in 1976 when General Murtala Mohammed was assassinated, and so Obasanjo was reaching out to stakeholders across the country to discuss with them. That means 1964 to 1976, you can see the difference.
Yeah.
So it was at that one of those meetings that the president invited religious leaders, Christian leaders. Most of the then bishops of the different denominations we had were in Lagos. So they were invited to the meeting. And in the meeting, there was no opening prayer. They just had a meeting. And when they were about to go, some of the bishops now say, wait, we can't come here to see our president in this situation, and we do not pray for him. And so the then Chief of General Staff, General Shehu Yaradua, responded sarcastically and said, look, actually we didn't ask you to pray because we don't know whether you're going to say a Catholic prayer or a Methodist prayer or an Anglican prayer or a Pentecostal prayer. So we wanted to avoid that. And they felt really insulted with that word. And so they all gathered themselves to one of the nearest church to Dodam Barak and decided that from today, we have an association called the Christian Association of Nigeria. So already they not had an association, so they just matched them and we move on. And Archbishop Ekadem then became the first chairman. So Northern Khan has actually been there speaking for the voiceless, standing for justice, ensuring that the right of every citizen is protected, especially religious right. And so this is what we've been doing. Unfortunately, something happened in the last 2 years, 9 months, because the leadership that just were removed for me to come in were elected first into 2016. At that time, I was part of the leadership. I was elected the public relations officer. After 3 years, that is on 4th of May 2019, we had a re-election because we've served our first 3 years. So the then vice chairman had served first time before we came, so he couldn't continue. So I became vice chairman from 2019, which shows that by the 4th of May 2022, we're supposed to have existed. Unfortunately, some of my colleagues chose to do what politicians are used to doing, sitting put. There was no election, there was nothing. They keep giving excuses. We are going to write constitution, we are going to write this and that. And so leaders were beginning to be tired. And you know, because of the changes of leaders in states, not many of the newcomers knew exactly when, until some stakeholders who were involved, especially lawyers who conducted the elections and other priests, say, wait a minute, where is our integrity if we can sit put like this for 2 years, 9 months after our tenure has expired? So a meeting was called, and when evidence were glaring, newspapers evidence and every other evidence with people who were there live and direct, a motion was moved for the dissolution of the old house. An election was conducted. My humble self was chosen to continue from where they stopped with a clear mandate that we must run in accordance with the Constitution of Khan, where you have just a single time of 5 years. I think that's just what we know, and for us, it's an opportunity, or it's a challenge for us to come and give Christians representation, and that's what I want to do. Other issues, I'm not interested in them than just giving Christians a quality representation, ensuring that people know there are Christians in this country, there are Christians in northern Nigeria, and they are citizens and their right must and should be respected.
All right, so Reverend, let's even get back to the conversation. I haven't been enlightened by what you've said so far. Looking at Reverend Yakubu Pam and some of the way he was removed from office, some youths within the Khan have felt dissatisfied, and they've come up with a press conference. So I want to find out, is Khan also, the Northern Khan, in approval to this particular statement?
Well, the simple truth about this, I really don't think I will have the energy for this kind of conversation, but for purposes of education and clarity, Musa Misal is the youth leader for the Northern Khan at the moment. I think in the desperation of just two individuals, actually, not even the ESCO, to ensure that they remain and remain relevant, they now wrote a press statement and asked him to sign and give out. He quickly reached out to us and said he was not going to do that, and he did not do that. But shortly, an hour or so, we got a link that it has been released. The question now is that who gave that press release? All we can do is to ask Musa, are you the one who gave the release? Musa said no. If you are not, then issue a refutal. And that's just what Musa have done, to say, I never issued the best. I like the way he put it. I was contacted. They wrote it and gave me, and I said no. And he used very strong word, and I wish those who are working and doing these dirty deals will learn. He said, there is judgment. You know, we shouldn't be doing what politicians are doing. Please, let's talk about the church. How do we do and make progress, and talk about what people do outside there? There are people who probably by nature and habit like controversy, and they want to maintain that. But for us, we simply want to represent the church. We simply want to stand with the church. We simply want to continue to shine that light of Christ. And we simply want the world to know that there are Christians in here or in this land called Northern Nigeria.
Well, Reverend Ayab, to a very large extent, we saw your antecedents in Kaduna State when you were the chairman of Khan in Kaduna State. You want to talk about, now what most people be wondering, people that they have not seen you, they've not heard about you. At this point, they are clamoring that will Khan in the northern state be liberated? Would they be able to discharge their primary functions and responsibility? People that have not seen you, but of course, we've been following your antecedents even in Kaduna State. So I want to ask you and put you on the spot even on this table. Are we expected to see a replica of what you did in Kaduna by expanding that in the northern state, by ensuring that advocacy and justice and also the rights of Christians are also being upheld in all quarters? Is that we're expecting to see, or there's a different agenda that you're running with, even with this particular administration that's going to last for 5 years?
Well, let me put it this way. I want to believe that my antecedent gave credence to why I was nominated and given the overwhelming support. I think my colleagues, stakeholders, or Christians of Northern Nigeria know that I, Reverend Joseph John Hayab, will stand for yea, yea, and no, no. I think that's just simple, and that's what the Bible asks us to do. I've received a lot of congratulatory messages, and those words are so heavy. People making reference to what you are saying, that look, we've known you, we've tested you. I've been around for a very long time.
We know you've been around for a while, so that's
I think
curious.
If I had fell in my first coming between 2003 to 2010, I wouldn't have been asked to come back in 2019 to continue. So I think I showed dedication and good spirit in what I did from 2003 to 2010. And when I went off, I was asked again to come back in 2019. And I thought I was even out, because for me and my family, we really didn't want to come back to do anything. But when my colleague said, no, brother, you know this job, you understand this job, we've been tested, you can represent us. I only humbly say, here I am, sent me. So I just pledged to say to the Christians in northern Nigeria that you have in me a dependable representative, you have in me a worthy spokesperson, you have in me a worthy and a sincere defender. I will not, because of stomach infrastructure or because of selfishness, compromise what is true for what is not true. I am not going to carry gun against anybody. I simply want to remind people that, look, what is the Constitution of Nigeria saying about being a Nigerian? Ensure the right of everybody is protected. Don't forget, unless and until we support religious freedom in this country, we will not make any progress. The reason why we are not making progress is because we've allowed nepotism, we've allowed sectionalism, we've allowed selfishness. The fact that we have an expert who can do things for us, we don't allow him to do. Our interest is, what is his name, where does he come from, what is his religion. I've always asked people to tell me this: who among us will go to the airport and want to fly? Let's say just fly to Lagos, and there is a plane on ground, but there is no pilot. And he's told that, look, there's a plane on ground that can fly you to Lagos, but there's no pilot. But there is one imam, or there's one pastor who is here, since he's a pastor or an imam, he's a religious person, he can fly you. Nobody's going to board that flight. But once you just say, no, there's a pilot. You know, a pilot is a trained person to fly a plane. Not an imam, not a pastor, not a religious or not a sectional person. That's why we do fly out of this country. Some flight are 14 hours or more. You have confidence in the pilot. You don't even know the name of the pilot. You don't know the tribe of the pilot, but you have confidence. The trouble with Nigeria is that we don't allow the right pilot to drive us. We want our tribal man, our religious man, our regional man, and so that's where. And sometimes when leaders begin to violate those things, they need someone to remind them and say, wait a minute. In this country, everybody is equal. In this country, everybody enjoys the same cover and protection under the law. In this country, everybody enjoys the same privilege under the law. So the most important thing is, let's go for the best than every day talking about the thing. So our primary role will be help those in power or those who are in privilege of office at this hour to always remember that if we don't unite, if we don't carry everybody along, if we despise others, we are not doing our country any good service.
Reverend Ayab, to a very large extent, we've seen Nigerian politicians enjoy some form of immunity. And we've seen that of Khan also enjoy some form of immunity in terms of the fact that both religious bodies, NGOs, and CSOs pay lip service to accountability, even within that sector. I would not say Khan to a very large extent. Neither have we seen PFN or other Christian bodies coming out to give accountable structures of what they've done and what they are doing, even at the point of handing over offices to the next administration. So let me put you again on the spot. You have been in this the system of regulating the Christian activities even in Nigeria, and by focus even in the north. Are we expecting to see more accountable structures even in as you begin to manage and control and begin to direct the affairs of northern Christians at this point in time?
Okay, before we get carried away and think that leadership of Khan is one big man versus a lower man, no. The leadership of Khan is first among equal. We are all Christians, we are all brethren, we are all friends, we are all people who are seeking for God. But you know, in a situation that we have, we need to have someone who represents us, someone who speaks for us. And that's why leadership comes into play. So in our leadership, it is not about dominating, it is not about arrogating to ourselves powers that we don't have. It's about giving people that worthy and godly representation. In my acceptance speech, one of the key things I say I want to do is service, integrity in service. You know, we have to, as Christian leaders or as religious leaders, be found honest and transparent in the way we do things. The few offices I've held in Cannes, those who remember will know that before I leave, I gave thorough account of what were the assets, what did we do, what were we not able to do. And so I have known those things, and I'm not doing it for any reason. My conviction is that one day I may not be in this world. And when my name is mentioned, or my children's name is mentioned, and someone will ask them, are you children of that Reverend Hayab, that pastor in Kaduna? And they will say, yes, I forgot about him. He cheated us. I have not done good service to my children. I want to give myself and my children a good name. So the best I'll do. And that's why the kind of joy and celebration that is going on about this election itself is making me humble. That people feel, no, you are the right person. No, you've done it. We've tested you. We believe in you. So all I will do now is to go back and pray and say, God, let me not fail these people. Let me not disappoint these people. Let me not do what. But as you rightly say, we have situation where there are failures in other quarters, but it's not because the association approves it. It is probably individual difference. Some people, even in the things of God, they still want to be carnal. And so, since we are not here to judge and condemn people, we bear with them, but we remind them and say, look, everything, the Bible says, you are stewards, and every steward is, what is expected for a steward is for him to be found faithful. So I'm a steward, and what I believe God is expecting of me is, let me be found faithful. Faithful in representation, faithful in managing if there are resources, faithful in ensuring that whatever needs to be done is done and done correctly. We must show this example. As a way of discipline, probably I grew up in a military in a barracks. My father served in the army during the war. So I learned this discipline of time. I don't believe in doing things the way people do, unless it becomes what you cannot help. I learned the discipline of ensuring that you keep record. In my life, I have notebooks like this in hundreds, because every day I'm keeping record. Where do I go? Who do I meet? What did we agree? Because I just want to be that disciplined in life. And I want to bring it into the kind of work I do to help make a difference. In our community, and especially in Africa, we have so much abused so many things, hiding under culture, and the culture really didn't say so. Sometimes hiding under religion, and the religion do not also teach so. So where do we get all those things? As a Christian leader, I will do my best to remind my colleagues that, look, let's show the people the right thing. Let's also be seen doing the right thing, because if you want to show people do the right thing, then do the right thing. When you do the right thing, they will see it, and they will copy it. It may not be long. They will stop doing those things you are thinking, the lack of accountability. What moral? Okay, the first conversation was about leadership that stays 2 years, 9 months, 5 days above their tenure. No, it's a shame. I don't even see myself trying that. And I promised them on the day of election that, look, I was elected on the 25th of February, 2025. On the 25th of February, 2030, or even earlier than that day, there must be an election for a worthy successor or a successor. There shouldn't be. You know, sometimes we act and forget that people are watching. If you do this and you think you are smart, people are watching. No wonder we have queried politicians, we have shouted on them, we have abused them, we have complained against them, we have said they are doing this, they are doing that. They don't feel anything because we're doing worst. So if we want them to really take us serious, let's show the example.
Reverend, just on the final note, because I've been told right now that our time is fast spent, even at the moment. Let's talk about the unity of the Christian faith, especially within the northern part of Nigeria. There tend to be a lot of division, even in this space. I might be wrong, of course, I'm a journalist, but I've been in this space for a while. There tend to be a division, even among the Christian faithfuls in the north. 19 states across the north. How will your administration, you piloting the aim of affairs, even in as the Cannes chairman, some people call it the chairman of chairmen.
That's right.
So how will you be able to ameliorate the situation and be able to guarantee that we have more unity even in the body of Christ, especially in the north?
Yeah, I do agree that there are situations where you see us acting and behaving as if we are divided. But the truth about it is that if you are in our shoe, you know the pains we go through, you know the difficulty our people are facing. Some of those divisions are deliberately created. I'll give you an example. In a situation where a system of government or a system of power deliberately impoverish exclusively people who belong to a certain identity, and then they come to that identity and pick few individuals and start to favor them, and they favor them to the detriment of the larger society. And then those few individuals who can see injustice, but they are not strong, courageous enough to speak against injustice because their mouth has been shut. So when others start querying them, questioning them and say, this is not fair, then you assume it is division. It's not division. It is about the way we are being treated. The fact is that if we will get 25 to 30% privileges as it is expected of us as citizens in this country, we will make this country and the northern Nigeria a wonderful place. We have people who understand that, but larger people, when they come into power, the moment they come, the first thing is that the enfranchised Christians make sure that their economic strength is weakened, make sure their economic opportunity. We don't want to be talking about this, but do you know that even common admission, you can go to a school in northern Nigeria to seek admission with all your scores. They will tell you are not qualified to be given that particular course. Imagine someone with 280 is asked to read chemistry, but someone with 195 or 210 is asked to read medicine in the same school. Tell me, when you start complaining, they assume it's division. It's not division, it's frustrations and pains. But we will do our best because people are changing now. New leaders are coming. In Kaduna State, we have an example. We had a leader in the past who believed nobody had the voice and insists that no one. But gradually, time came and he left. Someone is coming and extending olive branch. So God will always send somebody one day to change situation. That's why we are not out for any confrontation. We are simply out to remind ourselves that this is our country. And the country has a constitution. And the constitution gives every citizen equal right.
So is there a time frame for us to begin to mark your administration and its some of its policies and manifest? I don't want to use manifesto, God-given vision.
Thank you.
To that, is there a time frame?
Yeah, I believe that we are not going to waste time. We have already set the ball rolling. Within the next few weeks and months, you are going to see many of the things we are going to unveil. Most of our leaders actually left immediately after the election to Israel for holy pilgrimage. So we are just praying along with them for safe return. So the moment they come back, you will see us, you will hear us. We're going to, Easter is around the corner. We have a lot of things to do to show what this season is all about and what it means to us as Christians.
Well, Reverend Joseph Ayab, it's a very good time to have you, and of course there are a lot of conversations that we will still continue.
Thank you.
On this table. I want to say thank you so much for being a part
Thank you too for having me
this evening. Well, this is how far we can go even this evening. Well, do remember that you can follow us on our various social media to join in the conversation. And also you can download the Global Television app using the Android and iOS devices. All you need to do is to search for Global Television Nigeria. And of course, you will be watching us in anywhere across the world. Don't forget, you can also join us on our various social media handle on Global TV NG. Always remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. I am Godwin Sunday. Up next is News Cycle. Bye for now.
Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.